Hey everybody, I'm Dee Lisa, the Dream Doula for women. Mostly women. Yeah, mostly women. I help people tap into the intuition that they find in their nighttime dreams so they can weave that into their daytime reality. And today I have Jodi. Introduce
Hi,
yourself.
how are you, everybody? And I'm a transformational energy medicine practitioner, so very much about helping people tap into their intuition, but probably on a more practical level to get them to that point. But then creativity and getting into your flow, it really is the key behind everything. The longer we can stay in our flow, the more we're connected to our purpose and the life we want to live. So it's all about getting into that state for whatever that is for the individual.
Yes, and I understand you're an artist as well.
I am. I've been painting. It's interesting. I've been painting forever. And I hadn't realized until fairly recently, actually, how much of a therapeutic tool it had been for me. So
Mm.
in 2008, I actually painted for an art gallery in Melbourne, in Australia. And then, but I've moved around a lot. So we move on again. So it was only for like 2008 for about 18 months. But you still paint because it's like your journal representation is just in pictorial form, isn't it? And then if it's on
Yes,
canvases, it's a lot more to cart around and all those sort of things. It's not quite the same as a photo album, is it? But
I love
then,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, once you start painting, and I'm a painter as well, once you start painting big, then you're like, oh, as one of my friends said, after a while, it becomes a storage issue.
it completely does. And, I'm living in the UK at the moment, and my lovely sister has a lot of my canvases back in Australia.
I used to live in Seattle. So in Seattle, I still have some paintings. In Northern California, I have some paintings with my daughters. And here I have an art studio. And it's not like you can just stop and get rid of all
No,
your art. You have to just keep making it.
completely, because like it's comes from your heart, doesn't it? It's that connection to the paintbrush or the whatever medium that you use from your heart. It's directly that connection. So you can't stop it because you go insane. It's your thing.
I was talking to someone today who said when she's making these more than life-size flowers out of paper mache and cardboard and paint.
Wow.
Imagine if you're in Europe, it's a meter tall and it's a dandelion, or it's 3 feet tall if you
That
live
would
in
be
the
so
US.
cool though. Can you imagine just surrounding yourself with them and wanting them to nurture you? I would love that.
Yeah, they're doing it for a baby shower. So there's going to be multiple flowers that are really tall. The dandelion fluff, I was like, ooh, how did you make that? And she
Yeah.
said to me, when I'm working on these, I just feel so happy. And I said, yeah, because we live in a creative world and we are all creative. And when you're not tapped into creativity, it's like your light is turned down a little bit.
Completely. That is, and because your creativity is your intuition, it's exactly the same thing. Because when
Yes.
you're in that mode of happiness, I mean, that's what we're all seeking, isn't it? So how can we create that happiness or that contentment all day? That's really sort of the goal as a human, because there's so many things in the Western world that don't encourage that at all. And in the olden days, artists were revered, weren't they? And they were
Yes.
put on a pedestal, a lot of them. But it's that whole creativity, because when you're in fight and flight, everything's about this is the things you have to do to survive. But
Yeah.
when you're in your creative mode, we're in our rest and digest and we're relaxed. And that's when your body can heal all those sort of things,
Mm.
you know? And
Yes.
and our society doesn't encourage that at all. And look at how much chronic illness there is. So if we can encourage creativity, it raises the frequency of the planet, and we have all these much healthier and much happier people. And then everyone starts to live their purpose as well, because they're so tuned into their intuition. They know what
Yeah.
they've been put on this earth to do.
Yeah. So when you help people tap into their creativity, you meet them where they are. You were saying that earlier to me before we hit
Very
record.
much so.
So
Yeah.
some people are like, I'm not an artist. how do you help them tap into their creativity if they
Well, we
feel like
start
they're
off, we
not?
actually, to be honest, I haven't used the painting a lot in like the sessions, the therapy sessions. But we start off, it's very much like you say, where they're at. So it is very much about connecting the mind and body, so with emotions and things like that. So what is going on is very much about the awareness of what's going on an energetic level. So,
Right.
and it's simple things, as simple as, if it feels good, then do more of that. If it doesn't feel good, well, okay, let's change the thought process. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? So it's starting to understand yourself on an energetic level.
Because society teaches us to do things that are hard. No pain, no gain, which,
A hundred percent.
that's a terrible way to live.
It completely is. And yet, I think that's the frustration with the whole, I don't know if you'd call it the patriarchal society that we live in,
Yeah.
because I mean, that is what there's not a lot of yin in the way the Western world is structured. But why we're the ones as human beings and society that created that. We can also be the ones that uncreate it and create what we want now. Do you know? I mean,
Yeah.
we're in a totally different place now than, even 50 years ago, 100 years ago. So why not get it to, there's a lot more people becoming aware of the fact that we need to bring more feminine into the world and the
Yeah.
creativity and all those things
Yeah.
that, because we're finally starting to question, why are we here? Like, why not make it as good as we want to make it? Why do we have to do the things? We don't have to do anything if we don't want to. But it's until you ask those questions, people just carry on as they have been.
So even if someone feels like they have to survive, go to a particular job that they have right now, they can still tap into their creativity when they're not inside of that job.
Correct.
They can
Yes.
still make a song, make a doodle, draw something, paint something, create flowers that are oversized, whatever it
Yes.
is, knitting, sewing. I tell
Yeah.
people sometimes your creativity is just cooking dinner.
Yeah, absolutely. How therapeutic is that? Because it's so grounding,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
food and touching and that whole, and the love that goes into making your own food. You can taste the love, can't you, when it's been made like that?
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are so many things that are creative. It doesn't have to be exactly that. It doesn't have to be the traditional ideas of, oh no, I can't paint. It doesn't have to be that. What's your thing? What's your thing? Everyone's got a thing, even if it's something like creating something to do with technology. It's still their thing that they get in their
Yes.
zone with. It doesn't have to
Yes.
be. It can be anything. That's the whole point. Think outside the box as well with creativity.
And what do you tell people? I just remembered when I took one of my first art classes, it was based on the book Drawing on the Right Side of Your
Oh
Brain.
yeah, that's cool stuff.
Edwards, I think her name was. That was a great book. It's a classic. If you don't already have it,
No,
I'll
I don't
say
have
to
that
the
one.
listener, go get that book, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. She had taught children how to draw and had all these different exercises. So it was week after week, do this exercise and come tell us, how do you know if you're in your right brain? And I said, I drool sometimes. I'm so into the thing I'm making that I forget to close my mouth and I'm like, oh.
Oh, that's fantastic. See, there's always signs, isn't there?
I was like, so when you're I mean, there's probably another way to know that, you're spaced out into that creative zone. But how cool is that? Like there's a way that How do you tell people that they know that they're in that creativity zone?
Okay, so time takes on. There's no sense of time. It
Oh,
doesn't matter
yes.
because you're very much in
Yes.
the here and now. And
Yes.
it's like what I did actually. I did it was a mindfulness 8-week mindfulness program with the management at one of the hospitals that I was working at, because my background is I've been 30 years in the health care and acute care.
Okay. Yeah.
And I did this mindfulness program for management. And one of the things that I did with them was, you know, those things that you get and you dip in like detergent and then you blow bubbles with.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And we did, that was one of them. And then playing with Play-Doh. And drawing was another one. So I put them at the different desks and got them to rotate around. And it was all of them at one point got it. You know, time went so quickly, the hour and a half of the program. But not only that, all of them just they were so focused on what they did. They were so in the here and now because they were in their right brains. And it was, oh, you know, and when you can bring that into an organization on an everyday basis, it just changes things up so much because you're not stressed when you're in your right brain. Reduces the stress factor.
I love that. There's an artist that I know in Seattle. He taught at university level for many years, and now he's just working in his studio. And the last art show I went to that he had, he said, you know, you're in the zone when you decide to take a break for lunch and you see that it's 8 p.m.
Yes, yes, that's the time thing. Yes.
I was like, what? It's
Yes.
8 p.m. I think it's lunchtime. And he's just been painting. And it's not like he's a brand new painter. He's been painting and painting and painting for 40, 50 years. And he was telling us when we got a studio tour that, you know, he can set up his still life and paint that metal can. But I don't need to look at it anymore. I painted it so many times.
He's painted it so many times.
Around my memory, which is beautiful because you can still get into that creative zone, whether you're trying to make something look exactly like what it is or not.
And this, you've hit that's really important, that, isn't it? Because that's one of the things that people say, well, how can I'm not artistic, I can't paint that. But the whole point of it, it's not meant to, you can draw how you feel when you look at it. It doesn't have to look, the idea of art isn't about copying. You might as well just take a picture of it then. It's your version of what you're seeing. So, you know, you can take, the best thing I find when teaching people to paint is take a big paintbrush, so it's not precise. It has to be messy. It has to be it's not drawing in the lines. Now, so use the biggest brushes and just, you know, look at darks and lights. Look at it tonally rather than it as an object. And it turns out how it turns out, but then it's getting them away from that preciousness of having to get it to look exactly like they're painting, because that's how a lot of people start off. And that really, they want to do too much detail. If you give them a pencil, it's so, no, we want that flow to happen. And one really good thing that works is if you get people to do a meditation first, and then give them either something to look at and paint or a topic, and that gets them into that mode because they're in their right brain from meditation, so they just go straight into it and they haven't got the fear attached to it. It has to be perfect.
Yeah, I did a course in my art studio last year where I said, okay, it's not about what the product. We're going to just get into that creative zone, and then we're going to throw it away. And people went, I thought these people are going to be upset when I say we're going to throw it away. They all of them said, oh, good.
Yes, I love that. So that they just didn't care what they threw on the canvas.
Yeah, so I said, if you love it, you can snap a picture of it with your phone, but it's not something we're going to take home. It's not a museum quality piece. There's no pressure. We're just going to make marks. And one day I said, gave them all palette knives and some paint. And I said, I want you to pretend like you're walking into a forest. Paint that. And there was just silence in the room while everyone was just thinking about walking into a forest. And each
that's so good.
Just like the most interesting, beautiful things. With some of
them absolutely
big marks, and some of them were making tiny marks, but each one of them was just in that creative zone. It was fun.
And that's I love that.
I love your exercise with a big brush. That's also, or the non-dominant hand.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, so it becomes less brilliant. I've actually created I've combined the energy medicine painting. And so I get people in and for a couple of hours and I work with their energies and balance them out. And then we do whatever they want to work on today. So it's getting the basic, not grid, but the basic energies aligned. And then we work on whatever they want to today, whatever they've come to work with. And we do some tapping and tuning into where it is in their body, what emotion they're feeling. And then the second hour we work with the chakras and get the story. So the chakras work with we got 7 main chakras up our body, and each one of them represents a different part of life. So the base chakra, for example, represents the safety and security and financial security and also life and the fight and flight response, mainly there. And then as you work your way up, you've got the sacral chakras to do with sensuality, joy and sexuality. And then your solar plexus is to do with courage and getting out there in the world. Then your heart chakra is all about unconditional love, giving and receiving. And then throat is all about you, speaking your truth and also listening and hearing your truth as well. And then we got the third eye, which is to do with the intuition. And then our crown chakra, which connects us to the universe. And there's a story, they hold our life, they hold past lives and our present lives, everything that's ever happened energetically, they hold. And so you get a story from each of the chakras. And then I also then work out a color palette, just tune in to whatever, and I get vision of their story. And so I will then go away and paint it and bring it to them with the story. So it's like a reading and a diagrammatic representation of the whole time we've been together. And I love
that's right. Your friend who referred you to me said you paint people's souls.
That's it. It's an energetic soul portrait.
Nice.
Yeah. I love the fact I can combine my 2 passions.
How cool is that? And I'm assuming you can do this in person and also online for people?
Yeah, it actually works really well online. You know, it could because if you look at the world as everything is energy, we can do all of it online. But yeah,
because energy goes through time and space and computers.
Absolutely, yes. I know, it's magical, isn't it?
It's magical. What I love, Jodi, nowadays is that it seems like spirituality and energy medicine and all the woo-woo stuff has collapsed into scientific experiments and new theories of quantum physics. So
Correct.
the quantum physics theory is the energy healers theory.
Absolutely. And this is it. This is the thing, isn't it? This is the challenge when you are not a mainstream practitioner. So like I mentioned earlier, 30 years in acute cardiac care. And over that time, I got involved in energy medicine because things went pear-shaped in my life and it presents itself. And then you realize how magical it is. So you take it on board for yourself first, and then you can't help but use it. And I do this full time now. I've burnt out, left the health system, and this is incredibly magical. Now, what was my point? What was I going to say in relation to that? What did you say?
How energy medicine and quantum physics connect.
Oh, yeah, and exactly. And so even the modalities that I use, you can test. It's a therapeutic tool because you can test before and after, because our world is very scientific, isn't it? And there has to be proof. And the fact that we've got some big names out there now that deal with have dealt with a lot of people, and it is exactly that. It's physics, it's quantum physics. So it's not woo-woo anymore. There is absolute proof. There is absolute data. And that's what the world needs for it to be proven. Even though if they actually took a breath, sat down and felt it and experienced it, they would know it was real. But that isn't how the world works yet. So, you know, that whole let's help raise the frequency of one person at a time to, frequency of the world one person at a time. Absolutely. It's definitely changed. in the last 10 years.
It's, yeah, I think 40 years ago, this kind of dates how old I am. 40 years ago, I went to a street fair and someone was offering aura cleansing. I'm like, what's that? Come sit in a
Yeah.
chair and see how it feels. And so she like went through all of my chakras and said, okay, you're done. And then for the rest of the day, I just felt so free, so happy. Everything seemed brighter. And I thought, that was so weird. How did that work? And then I actually studied how to do energy healing and clear people's chakras and their auric field. But I still didn't go into that kind of field until recently when I teach people about dreams. And it's so amazing that little kids get it. People
Yes.
who've studied yoga and energy healing, Reiki practitioners, massage therapists, probably therapists and psychiatrists also get it, but maybe they can't say it out loud. And I've talked to multiple people who started out in the traditional medical fields who've gone into the type of work that you do. And it's
Yes.
not just give them an IV and some pills. And I mean, maybe if they're broken bones, you need to X-ray them and
No, absolutely. I mean, trauma for accidents and trauma, absolutely. You get the
yeah,
first line of defense. They're not
yeah,
chronic illness. I mean, 90% of chronic illness is caused by stress. So why do you give people a tablet to put more stress on their body? It doesn't make sense.
yeah, yeah.
Work on
That
getting us
was
back into rest and digest, back into our flow, back into our creativity. And there's so many ways of doing that. Because, yeah, yoga is what I was introduced to first. That began my journey. But
mhm.
honestly, the last 11, 12 years, my life is so different now. But it needed to be, which is why I found it. Because
Yeah.
you don't find these things when you're happy. You just stumble across them when you're desperate. And hallelujah.
Okay, you need to say that again. That is such a mic drop moment. You don't stumble into things when you're happy.
You don't. It's when, your life goes pear-shaped and it's like, hello, it kind of smacked me in the face. And I joined this yoga, one of those packages for beginners. 6 weeks for $25. This is in Australia. And honestly, I knew I had to go every day for my mental health. So my first 2 weeks, I was in tears at the end of every class. So I figured there had to be something in this. I had no
Mm,
idea what it was. And that led me to obviously end up doing a teacher training because I wanted to find out more for me. And it was really mindfulness based, the whole thing. We had to keep a mindfulness journey from the day we started. And the lady that my yoga teacher trainer, she was someone that had been involved in yoga for like 40 years. So one of the originals. And she was so amazing in just what her wisdom and that connection. It was like it just opened another door. And then really soon after that, I got involved in energy psychology. So I was doing them both at the same time. And it was really like a whole mind, body, soul cleanse. It was
mm,
fantastic. Yeah.
mm. I love that you said that every day when you were done with this thing that cracked you open, you were crying.
Oh,
I
yeah.
felt the same way when I went to my first metaphysical church. And I didn't go to church since I was a little tiny kid. I'm like, eh. And then I found this New Thought metaphysical church, and they teach everything that's common to all the religions, but without the hell and brimstone part,
Oh,
right?
I love that.
And every day at the end of the service, I would be like looking for the tissues, crying. It just kind of cracked me open. And one of my coaching friends has these tissues that she hands out when she does in-person workshops, and the package says, "When your heart opens, your eyes leak,"
Oh, that's beautiful.
isn't it?
Oh my God, that is so lovely because I had so much stuff that I'd shoved down for so long it was ridiculous. Every workshop I went on, every retreat, I was the first one in tears and I was the last one in tears. It was that there's such a release. And we're not taught to cry. Even women it's accepted a lot more for women. But people now, even clients that I get, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm crying. Look, I'm happy. I've obviously done my job, It's that sort of thing. Let it flow.
Yeah, crying is not accepted in society. In fact, if
Not
you're
at
a
all.
woman in a business meeting and you cry, you lose.
Mm, And
And
how ridiculous is that?
it's been said that if you're, if women are really angry, they'll cry also.
Yeah.
And if men are really angry, they yell. So it's completely acceptable to be in a tight business meeting and you're negotiating something, and the men are getting really upset and their voice is getting louder. The woman cannot cry. She doesn't, that's not accepted in that world. So I was taught when I was a real estate broker, if you feel like crying, take a drink of water, because you can't cry and swallow at the same time. And it's true. So if
That's
you're,
true.
I mean, I think crying is okay now, but there's certain situations where you probably ought not to cry right then, cry later. And so you can swallow
Swallow
and
some
not
water.
cry.
I mean, that is, yeah, I guess you can't cry, but
Take
wow.
it, yeah, try it sometime or not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's healthier to just let yourself cry. But it's a beautiful concept that once we get to something that's really going to crack us open and open our heart,
Yeah.
tears come.
Yeah, I love it. And it is so freeing though, isn't it? Because it's all the way, look, everything is energy. So you just want energy to flow. How does it flow? Whether it's through movement, whether it's through connecting in with your intuition, whether it's through your creativity, whatever it is, we just want that energy to move, because all chronic illness is stuck energy.
Right. So if people that can see the energy and move the energy can help people, can see where someone has chronic illness, because it's a block in, that's
Yeah,
how
yeah. So
acupuncture works too, right?
yeah, similar. So we use acupressure points, exactly. We just don't use the needles. You can use your hands to do the same job.
Yeah.
And pain is just an area of a lot of energy, over energy. So we want to disperse the pain. And often the pain with pain, there can be a story attached to it, emotion. It's been created as a protective mechanism. So if you can tap into that story, and there's layers that come with it, layers of emotion, there'll be a story that it started with. It's unbelievable. Some of the clients that come, and they have a few sessions, and all that they've come in with, and they've had problems for years, just is no longer, because they've got that energy moving. And they also then make the lifestyle changes to support that. Yeah.
Right. Right. So in your energy work, you get people to tell you their stories.
Well,
And then
sometimes, to be honest, you don't actually have to know their
oh,
stories.
okay.
But
You
but
don't have to
yes,
know.
most people will. That you'll get an understanding of it.
Mm.
And it depends why they come in. But the beauty of it is you start moving their energies, and they've come in, say, for a frozen shoulder, and you get to, so like I mentioned earlier, stress. Part of one of the main systems of energy is the meridian system, and it's like the arteries and veins of the anatomical model, the mainstream, the meridian system. And part of it's one system, but part of it is called the triple warmer. And the triple warmer is the fight flight part of it. So it's the security guard. And for most of us in the Western world, that is overactive, way too much energy. And it has to get its energy from somewhere to be over-energized, because it's a system. So it draws first from the spleen meridian. So for most of us, the triple warmer is overactive and the spleen is underactive. And the spleen is involved in blood, in digestion of thoughts, food, and emotions. And both of them together also support the immune system. So it's really important to get those two balanced. One of the first things is to get them balanced, so that then once they're balanced, then the other systems are more likely to hold as well.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so most people, when they come, you work with that bit first, so that, but if you, once you start to get the energies flowing in the directions they're designed to go, then they come in for a frozen shoulder. That starts to ease, but then every part of their life starts to change. It's not just their health. That's the magic of it all, because we hold frequency. And, you know, if we notice something angry in the world and it bothers us, it means that we've got an angry frequency to match, because someone that doesn't notice it hasn't got that frequency within them. So it's all about working with the energy, getting it flowing to overcome and raise your frequency. If it feels good, do it. If it doesn't feel so good, let's look at how we can change that thought process or whatever it is that got you into it.
I love that. And we're back to the idea that if it feels good, you should do it until it doesn't feel good anymore, and then do what feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the beauty of a lot of the energy exercises as well. If it feels good, do it. It's got to be it'll be working. Like for example, one of the really good things is like calming the triple warmer, because most of us are so wired. And like just a really simple exercise. If you place it's working. It's like basically it's working with the vagus nerve. A lot of people would have heard the vagus nerve. So if you just place one hand over your ear and the other on the side of your neck, and you can shut your eyes or just tune into that and just see how that feels for you.
Feels like a hug.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
That's very relaxing.
Yeah.
Does it matter which side you do it on?
No. So both parts of it are covering the triple warmer, because we've got one on each side of our body. So the triple warmer runs from your fourth finger up the back of your arm, up your neck here, behind your ear, and then to your eye. And funnily enough, frozen shoulder that I mentioned earlier is to do with that particular meridian in a lot of cases, because of where it runs. It's the frozen shoulder, so there's stuck energy in there. So you can work with that meridian.
It's fascinating to me that it's called frozen shoulder, and most physical therapists will say there's nothing I can do to help you with this. It's a frozen shoulder. It will eventually get better, like maybe in 6 months. You can do this and that, but all the things that they can do physically with your body do not repair that issue.
And yet I had a client recently, and it was like squeezing toothpaste out of her triple warmer, because of the pain. Just ran along the triple warmer meridian from and it was the parts that were sorest was so behind the ear, down here to here, and then it was okay again. Like you could touch it and feel it.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, I know, it was amazing. And that's the beauty of it as well. You never get two people the same, ever. If they come in with the same condition, that's about the only thing that they've put their coat hanger on that title. But everything else is totally different. Their story, how they came to see you, what's going on in their body. So you never get bored. No way.
And people probably really respect you and trust you because you were, first of all, in the medical field, and now you're in the energetic medical field. So they're like, okay, you know something. Not just
and I yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're accept, and for me that was why it was really important to get that. I would test your energy when you come to see me, right. And I can do it across here as well, but I can also teach you how to test your own energies. It's really important to empower your client so that they can start to do it on themselves and start to understand their own energies. And then they just add to their toolbox of tricks that they can use because everyone's got predispositions to certain things. So what do you need where are your energetic weaknesses? Right. Well, this is what I suggest for you. And so the fact that you can test and you can see the before and afters, I love that. Nice. That feels good. That feels good with their science background. I'm happy, and then they're happy as well. They can see it, because a lot of people initially find that connection of the feeling connection that's new to them. A lot of them, that connection between the where are you feeling it in your body, Oh,
Yeah.
and it comes, it's just practice.
Yeah, I did an exercise with someone recently where he's like, he was connecting the thought you're telling yourself and the feeling in your body
Yes.
until it dissipates. That's probably
Yes.
very much like your work. He's like, okay, where do you feel
Yeah.
that in your body? What are you telling yourself when you feel that in your body? What do you now? Where do you feel it in your body? What are you telling yourself until finally, like whatever that story was you were telling yourself, you're you realize it's baloney,
Yeah,
and
exactly. It's
then the
yeah.
feeling goes away. Yeah, crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's amazing, isn't it? It is like magic, that there's no question about it. Every time, because of course, working with clients, I need to work on myself too. Otherwise, I'm no use to my clients. So,
Right.
we're all a work in progress, aren't we? And all on our own journey. And it will always be. So all of us need help. So I love it. When I have a session, it's just so cathartic, like bring it on. You feel so much better afterwards. So surely that's a good thing.
So Jodi, when you have a session, do you have a practitioner that you go to then?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because like I work on myself every day as part of my routine. But there's certain things that come up that you just can't shift yourself because,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
well, we've got our triple warmer there, our protector, and he's
Yeah.
not going to let things past him. If it's too hard work, he's going to be too kind. So
Right.
someone else can overcome that, and you can dig in a lot deeper because resistance is just a protective mechanism. Hang on, we're not going there. But another practitioner, that whole trust that comes with it works on it, and it moves. Yeah.
I heard also recently, see if this resonates with you. The more you're resisting something, the more it's coming up for you that you really don't want to look at this thing. That means you're close to really breaking through.
Yeah, 100%.
Uh,
Yep. And seriously, I know that people that come and they haven't experienced it before, it only gets better. Like you break through. It's hard to explain what it's like. Initially, what can happen though after a session, because you've stirred the pot of emotion, for a few days afterwards, it not necessarily, but it can be a bit tumultuous. You can be a bit teary because you've started moving the energy. But honestly, it's such a good thing. And not every session that's amazing ends up erupting in tears either. It's a very personal thing, but it's all about it. It's connecting your body. And once you start to understand that connection with your emotions, what you're feeling, and then if you can visualize it, some people can't visualize, but they'll sense it. There's different ways of coming to grips with what's going on inside. It's whatever your representation is. And you start learning the language. It's like another language, but so I get visuals, I can feel it, I hear it often, I sense it. I probably get all of them when I'm working, and also when I'm working on myself. So it's not dissimilar to dream work. In fact, it's everything, because you're tapping into the subconscious, and it's cryptic. You don't have to understand it from a logical point of view, because the visions that you get might not make left brain sense. It doesn't matter. It's be okay with what you're feeling, what you're seeing. Just welcome it up. Doesn't have to make sense. Just keep welcoming it. It's absolutely okay. It's that sort of thing.
I
And
love that you said
yeah.
it's like dream work because dreams are confusing for people too.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like a cryptic crossword, isn't it? When you get your visions, and what is that supposed to mean something? So I also like to don't don't think it has to mean anything. It will, but the more you want it to, it's kind of you're still in your left brain. No, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to mean anything. Just chill and let it flow, and the answers might come later.
Yeah. Yeah. I say that for people when they're working on their dreams. And if we can't get to the bottom of what it means, I'm like, ask for another dream to explain what it means.
Oh, I like
Because
that.
you can ask at night for a particular dream and you might get it that night or the next night or the third night. Yeah. So fun. Well, Jodi, tell
Yeah.
people how they can find you, and I'll put it all in the show notes so that they can, I'm assuming you have a website.
Yeah, absolutely. So very original. www.jodiannelaw, all one word. So Jodi with an I, Anne with an E, LAW.com. And so that's my website, and I'm on Facebook. So it's all under jodiannelaw.com. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
Sweet.
Yes.
Sweet. We'll put all that in the show notes. And thank you so much. This has been a really fun conversation.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah.
And I've got
Okay.
free things on my website as well that people can have a look at just to get an idea of who I am and all those sort of things that
Nice.
come with it. Yeah,
Okay. Free gifts on the website. We'll put that on the
absolutely.
show notes too. Thanks, Jodi. And bye, everybody, for now.
Thank you.